The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Chip.
And I'm TJ.
And it's Friday, TGIF. And boy, where do we begin again? We never run out.
Let's see. The storm that we had last night, nobody was prepared for.
Well, the weathermen got it wrong again.
The weathermen got it wrong anyhow. I'd love to have that job. You only got to be right 50% of the time, and you still get paid all the money.
You can be wrong 100%. If they don't fire you, they go, you know, the radar didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
Now they, you know, years ago the weathermen used to say it's going to snow tomorrow. Today they go, well, there's a 10% chance of precipitation, so it doesn't matter. Snow, sleet, hail, rain. You know, they.
Well, they gave this storm a name, and they called it Avery.
Yeah.
Like it needed a name.
Well, I see the plows are out. I had more plows going down my street for a snowstorm that they knew was going to evaporate by the next day because the temperature was going up and the rain was coming. And there were plows going down. I guess all the mayor's people had to make their money before somebody else gets
recalled.
and you know, it gave me cause to think about. I wonder if his former campaign financial guy, who was also his landlord, who evicted him, I wonder if he's still got the job plowing snow and he's got some other kind of title like team director or area coordinator or something, which gives him even more money. So again, you know, the tentacles never get out of the pot. They find every conceivable way to get their hands into the taxpayers' money. You know, we get a facade put on our building, we get our street repaved, and we get a plow job, and we get a title too. That gives us a little even more money for plowing. So.
And they're spending more community development block grant money on business facade. Yeah, along Columbia Street and everywhere else. So.
And boy, isn't that an appropriate term, facade? Because that's what it is. It's the whole thing is a facade. And you know, and then again, we hit the news. I guess the Hammer murder finally went to trial, and they were convicted. Yep. The guy, you know, so come to Fall River. If they don't agree with you, they hit you in the head with a hammer.
Oh, they shoot you, or they stab you,
or they stab you. You know, but hey,
they hit your car.
Put a new front on a building, and they will come.
And don't save anyone's life after they've been shot because you die in a car accident.
That's right. Remember, if you come here, the front of the buildings will bring them all here.
That's it.
In spite of all what goes on.
Well, about 50 minutes to an hour ago, Dawn Surratt, Joe Pereira, James Cusack, Joe Good, Alan Zarek, and Erica Scott were all at Government Center videotaping the final petitions for the recall being turned in. And now they're saying they have somewhere around 6,000 signatures. And then they blame Doggy Venice for getting them all.
Yeah. Well, they're going to blame somebody because you know, we have gotten reports that the mayor was in there laughing.
Yeah, and actually it's on video.
Well, good. Well, you know, remember, Mr. Mayor, Will Flanagan laughed at us too. Yeah. And look where he ended up.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting because
and he was a lot more popular than you, by the way.
It's going to be interesting because the elections commissioner has said that she has to finish certifying the general election before she can get on to certifying the signatures. And that's why she's saying it's going to take about 30 days.
You mean the commissioner that's on probation for 6 months and her job hangs in a balance, and if she does it too quickly, the mayor might boot her out. So, yeah. And there's no excuse there. Listen, if 150 people run for public office and they bring in their petitions to get on a ballot, they managed to do it. And they said, oh, they're shorthanded. Well, they're not shorthanded in the mayor's office. Send a few of the extra staff that he's got up there. He's got a cabinet the size of the President of the United States. Or better yet, get the people who work at the polls.
Yeah.
But then again, that's not a good idea looking at Florida. I mean, maybe that's not the best idea in the world. But then again, Florida kept the person who, in the last election, screwed up.
Exactly.
And they let us stay in charge. Not only was she there, she was in charge. Lodge is in charge. So, boy, there's politics again, because how do they get those jobs? They get, that's right.
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Kiss, kiss, kiss. They go. So here's a woman that was, the last time was basically deemed incompetent, and I think somebody posted a really funny mime or something, and it had one of the Muppets going in to help them and explain to her, and they said, well, she said, I always get mixed up when the number gets above 9.
Oh, yeah, that's with count to count.
Yeah.
A 1.
Yeah,
a 2.
Yep. And but I mean, look, that's not a laughing stock. It's a travesty.
I know.
You know, elections are the most, the most sacred part of this government. I mean, the people are speaking. And to not have security, to not have competent people, to have this again in Florida, the hanging chads, now this, then ballots missing in the last election. I mean, to me, this is criminal.
Yeah, well,
this is criminal.
It's interesting you should bring Florida up, because U.S. District Judge Mark Walker vented his anger at state lawmakers in Florida, but also Palm Beach County officials, saying they should have made sure they had enough equipment in place to handle this kind of recount. A federal judge slammed Florida on Thursday for repeatedly failing to anticipate election problems, and said the state law on recounts appears to violate the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that decided the presidency in 2000. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, and in the opening statement from the Associated Press, it says, the federal judge slammed Florida for repeatedly failing.
Right, repeatedly.
You know, once it's a mistake, 2 or 3 times it's beginning to become a pattern of incompetency. And he's right. And people should be outraged. Florida has become the poster child for political shenanigans during elections.
Exactly. And, Judge Walker, U.S. District Judge Walker said, we have been the laughingstock of the world, election after election, and we choose not to fix this. Imagine that.
Why? Because of politics. And I'll remind my Democratic friends, and I'll remind them I'm not a Republican. I've been an independent my entire life. Unenrolled, independent, whatever euphemism they want to attach to it. But I don't vote by party affiliation. Remember, all you people now that are all galvanized again against the common enemy, Donald Trump and the Republican Party. You got very short memories and obviously very, very, limited powers of perception. Don't you remember, all you Bernie Sanders supporters, that the Democratic Party told you, we don't care what the Democratic people want. We don't care what you want as individuals and members of this party. Hillary Clinton will be the nominee because the superdelegates will take over and make sure she becomes the nominee. And you not only stayed in the party, you've forgotten already that party doesn't care about you. And no political party cares about it. It's all about politics today. All you do is look at the partisanship. They've all forgotten that they are supposed to be representatives of the people. They're representatives of themselves and their party. That's all they care about. And this is what's people have, I don't know, it's just like maybe you spend too much time playing video games, or going to the, trying to legalize marijuana to make your ability to comprehend even more blurry. But the reality is you've forgotten that your party, the party of sympathy for everyone, had no sympathy for you. They told you and they told Bernie, hey, we don't care what you want. He's not going to be. He could win 95%. And he's not going to be the nominee of this party. And they just rubbed your nose in it. And here we are a couple of years later. But that's what happens when you galvanize people. As Bonaparte said, the 2 levers that move men are fear and self-interest. And that's a self-interest. Just like when we went to war in the Middle East. The Shiites, the Sunnis, the Kurds have been killing each other for thousands of years because of religious differences within their own religion. But when we got there, we galvanized them. They had a common enemy. The infidels had arrived, like we did during the Crusades. And that's one of the few times in the Middle East there's ever cooperation between them. They've been warring for years. Even you go back to the old movie Lawrence of Arabia, when all the warring Arab tribes were finally galvanized against the Turks. But it's very rare. But they have to have something to galvanize them, and that's always normally a common enemy, because it's not about they like each other, it's about the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And you know, they just don't get it. And I just don't get this. You know, you see this thing over and over again. What is more? And I agree with Judge Walker. I mean, you know, I mean, these people should be put in jail. The people who appoint these people should be put in jail. You know, and because this is criminal. You know, how can we, you know, we complain about the Electoral College, they complain about everything, but then when people do show up to vote, you can't even be sure your vote was counted, or if somebody else's vote that didn't vote was counted. And, you know, and it's every single election now in Florida. And they're right, but it's not a laughing matter. It's a really serious matter. And, you know, they do a lot of talking. All the judges and all the politicians do a lot of talking, but you never see them solve anything. Do we all remember them grilling pharmaceutical CEOs, taking them to task, calling them everything, shaking their fist, vowing to fix the problem? What happened?
Nothing.
Nothing. Especially to the one whose father was a senator.
Right.
The one with the EpiPen. You know, they made her, she got an $18 million pay raise after jacking up the price.
Of course.
So,
of course.
But, yeah, and like I said, their feigned outrage outrages me, because I see them there and they put on, you know, then every once in a while you get some comic relief like Sheldon with the boof. What's boof mean? I guess you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. You don't know what a boof is. Come to Fall River. We'll explain what a boof is.
We'll teach you, exactly.
But,
we'll teach
you know, this is it. Florida's a laughingstock, you know, and
while we're on drug companies and whatnot.
Drug companies? That's right.
What
a segue.
The ZBA struck down STAR's appeal. Mm-hmm. The Zoning Board of Appeals voted 3-2 to uphold the city's building inspector's decision to deny STAR a building permit to construct a $11.7 million drug and alcohol treatment and research facility in the south end in the north end on Weaver Street. That was last night. I don't know who the second vote was, but the first vote for it was Gregory Brilliant. And the remaining three on the ZBA voted no. So two of which were attorneys. And they said very clearly that this was a very finite decision. But according to Nancy Paul, we will definitely appeal. That's all I have to say. We will definitely move forward. You know,
and I will definitely ask for a pay raise when I get all these facilities expanded, and the people of Fall River will have to suffer more drug addicts being imported, like we have to suffer all the people imported into our housing because we have ads. To send us your worst, and we will take them because I'll get a pay raise.
What's interesting is City Inspector Glenn Hathaway turned around and told STAR, you need to file for a variance from the ZBA. They didn't file for a variance. They filed an appeal to the decision of the inspectional services. Maybe if they had filed for a variance, it would have been granted. But here's the problem that they have here. According to the law, marijuana facilities cannot exist within 150 feet or 500 feet of a educational facility. STAR is classifying themselves as an educational facility. So that restricts them from going there in the first place. Now they're going to build a methadone clinic there. And people that testified yesterday said the same thing. Methadone is useless. And it is. Methadone is useless. And it's just a way to keep the junkies on junk.
And sell methadone.
And sell methadone.
And sell methadone. And somebody gets a paycheck and a job. And we all know this is all about money because, you know, every once in a while you see a commercial on television, and I saw it last night, as a matter of fact, that cigarette smoking kills more people than opioids, car accidents, murders, and everything in the country every year. Cigarette smoking kills more people than any other, you know, causation. Yet, what do? Have we ever banned cigarettes? No. They make them put a little label on there, but they allow them to be predatory. Again, our politicians shake their fists, and they came up with, remember years ago we had, it's almost looking like, it's like Yogi said, deja vu all over again. Remember when they had the smoking cessation thing, and we had a smoking somebody in Fall River that went around and make everybody quit smoking? And they threw a bunch of money in, a bunch of people got jobs, they spent a lot of money, and it didn't go anywhere. Well, guess what? Cigarette smoking kills more people. Have they banned cigarettes? Have they made it contraband? Have they made it illegal? No, of course not. Because the cigarette industry is a multi-billion-dollar organization that greases the palms of all the politicians.
Yeah.
And so, you know, look,
the tobacco lobby is huge.
Opioids now has become the new cigarette smoking, and it started back in the 70s when, you know, don't get on drugs. We tried to stop. Now it's all about treatment, and it's all because why? Money. Money, as we said on our first show so many years ago. Follow the money.
Exactly.
This is a cash cow for everybody, whether it's the rehab facilities, you know, the hospitals, you know, the pharmaceutical industries, and it's a boatload of money.
Here's the interesting thing, and I said this to somebody who was advocating for another detox facility in Fall River. I said, you know what? If a heroin addict overdoses, they get Narcan for free. But when a diabetic goes into a diabetic coma, they don't get insulin for free. When a cancer patient needs cancer treatment, they don't get cancer treatment for free. When an asthmatic needs asthma treatment, they don't get that for free. But because you're a junkie, because you're on heroin, you get everything for free. Not only do you get that, you also get Social Security benefits.
Yeah, but remember one thing, that, you know, if you're a diabetic or if you have cancer, you normally have medical coverage.
Not always.
But most of the time they do, and that's what they do. Because if you don't have medical coverage, you know what the CEO that jacked up the cancer drug said? Well, you can't afford it. Die.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't care.
Yeah.
So they don't care.
And
but
that's
the thing about
opioids,
most opioid addicts, no matter how much money they had at the beginning, ultimately end up with no money, and they're basically indigent.
Right.
And so what did we have to do? The light went on. Oh, we'll make this a disease. We'll say, oh, we've got to, it's a scourge. We do this, do that, and we're going to make a boatload of money because, believe me, if they weren't making any money on this,
it wouldn't be happening.
It's like the military-industrial complex. Nothing would be happening. And there are a lot of countries that do virtually nothing for drug addicts, and they actually have less drug addiction.
Right.
I mean, try to find an opioid clinic in Dagestan.
Or anywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
Or anywhere in Europe. I mean, it's impossible.
But, that's the political way. That's the American way. You have a problem, throw money at it. There's two ways that politicians take care of problems. They get their friends jobs and throw money at it, or they pass laws that mean nothing, that nobody abides to.
Well, some of the stuff that came up because of this ZBA hearing is Beauregard, which is Philip Beauregard, who's the attorney for STAR, indicates there's currently an investigation by the U.S. Attorney Boston office involving Hathaway and the city for alleged ADA violations. Corporation Counsel Joe Macy confirmed after receiving an open records request from the Herald News that the Civil Rights Unit of the U.S. Attorney's Office had an open investigation. I spoke with an investigator, and it's my understanding that this is a new division in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they are looking into ADA issues. But I believe this is more of an inquiry rather than an investigation. Well, it seems like the mayor is under investigation again. for their city actions. Released documents indicate that the Special Assistant U.S. Attorney, in an email to Macy dated October 24th, was opening an investigation into the building inspectors denying a permit for a methadone clinic. The new STAR facility would have methadone clinic as part of its services.
Yeah, and then we look at some of these quotes. First, we got Joan Menard, who doesn't, she doesn't live anywhere where there's a bunch of junkies, and when they come to me and tell me they need help, and I don't have a bed or a facility to send them to, it breaks my heart. Well, guess what? When they come to you the 75th time for that bed, you know the programs are not working. I think everybody is entitled to a mistake, maybe even 2 mistakes. But when they're frequent flyers all the time, I knew people that went to 16 different rehabs as far away as Palm Springs, Florida, in the winter. Sometimes it makes me think maybe I should take that and say I got a problem. I can go down to Palm Springs and lay near the pool. But, it breaks your heart. Well, that's
But here's the thing.
But now here's the other one. I got Kathy Berraby Kroger, president of the North End Neighborhood Association, said that STAR is proposing in a new facility that every 3 to 6 days, 60 new people will be using the detox facility. Quote, that means annually it will be 3,000 people, drug-addicted people, coming into this community.
Right.
So what comes with drug-addicted people?
Crime.
Crime, because they're there to detox. And most of them, as soon as they detox, they go out and look for a fix. And where they're going to be looking for a fix? In Fall River.
Well, and
why do you think we had that what is it, 20-some people arrested a while back?
Right.
That were bringing drugs in from Providence to Fall River. This is a fertile ground.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a target-rich environment for drug dealers.
And here's why it's so fertile. When they go to STAR for treatment, STAR doesn't send them back home to where they came from. They get put out on the streets of Fall River.
That's right.
And now, yesterday, as I was discussing this with some people, they turned around and they said, oh, well, no, they don't. They have support services now. They can give them an addiction coach, and they can give them this, and they can set them up in housing. But, yeah, they set them up in housing in Fall River. They keep them here in Fall River. We don't need any more in Fall River. Let them open. You know what, Nancy Paul? Why don't you open up this clinic in Somerset? Let's see how well you go that way. Why don't you open it in your backyard? This is the problem.
And and like I said, what is this stat? Dwight Eisenhower said many years ago, beware of the military-industrial complex, because when you integrate big money things into your economy, they become, they become entrenched. They're there forever. And he said, beware of creating a military-industrial complex, and we did. And look at today. Look at the Bath shipyard in Maine. When they thought about closing that, the entire economy of Maine would collapse. And they fought like hell, and they kept the Bath shipyard. We build things we don't need to build. On Full Measure, there was a story about the aircrafts, a military aircraft that they spent not billions, but trillions of dollars. And they ended up making 6 planes, and none of them flew and operated properly. And the program is still being pushed. They're still trying to do it. Why? Go to California. The aircraft industry employs a boatload of people. If you lay them off, if you stop that, you're going to throw our unemployment rate into chaos. People always talk about they want to revise welfare. What? They don't want to revise welfare. You get rid of people on welfare, you make them work, you make it work fair, and you make it where it's a really small, you don't need a lot of people because they're either working or they're handicapped, and then if they're handicapped physically or mentally, well, they deserve assistance. But if they're able to work, they're required to work. And come up with something like a negative income tax to help them. But all the social workers will be out of work. All the counselors will be out of work. all the people in the housing authorities where they put them to live. And just think about the mass exodus of all the people that are in specifically providing direct services and also ancillary services. And see how much that factors into the economy. That's why they don't really want to get rid of it. They'll have to throw it, you know, they'll have to, if they shut down the welfare department and make it just to deal with, obviously, issues with children, child abuse and stuff like that, not just dealing with this handout program that we've had for years. And there have been a lot of good suggestions on how to eliminate it, but it never gets eliminated because it's intertwined with the, you know, people, you know, they're getting jobs and they're going, oh my God, if you get rid of some of this stuff, it'll have a dramatic effect. But you got to bite the bullet sometime. But that's the problem. When money is the end all and be all of everything, you can't get rid of this stuff. And like I said, yeah, we spend more money on opioid problems now than any other country on the planet, and have for years. And have we eliminated it? No. I guess we are the definition of insanity in this country.
No, we are.
Because all we do is continue to throw money at things, and when they don't work, we don't make radical changes to work. You know, how many years have we been passing gun laws every time there's a shooting? We still haven't figured out that doesn't work.
Exactly.
Now we've been throwing money at the opioid crisis since the late 1960s, and it's worse now than it's ever been. So, you know, forgive me if I don't have a lot of confidence in the government's ability, especially in the United States, because we have the most expensive health care in the world, yet we don't rank #1 in any facet of health care. I think the last time I checked, we were 47th in infant mortality.
Yeah.
Do you realize that means there are third world countries that have lower infant mortality rates than we have in the United States?
Yeah, it's a shame. One of the things that people keep saying is that we need more beds for detox in Fall River. The problem that they don't understand is those beds will not go to Fall River people necessarily. The beds are controlled by DMH. When somebody comes in and they need a bed, the intake worker picks up the phone and calls DMH and says, you know, I've got Johnny Smith here who needs a detox bed for opioid addiction. And they say, oh, the next bed is available at Fuller in Jamaica Plain. Send them there. That bed gets taken off. And Johnny's from Fall River. But meanwhile, Mary Smith from Worcester is coming to Fall River because that's how far down the bed was. They don't have control of their beds. The beds are controlled by DMH.
That's a very important point. Plus the fact that Fall River is one of I think only 2 that have the ability to deal with people who are court ordered in there.
Right.
So that we get all of those. Even the other treatment facilities throughout the state do not get those people, which are the people with the worst problems. So remember that factor. And as I said, look, isn't it amazing how Fall River's always the dumping ground for everything? Why don't we share the wealth with this? When we have the lottery, Newton and Wellesley get a disproportionate share. Nobody up there plays the lottery much.
No, we play it all down here. Because they all got
money. We have, you know, Fall River, New Bedford area has the highest amount of lottery tickets sold because everybody wants to get lucky. That's the only way they're ever going to have money. So everybody wants to hit the mega bucks or the Powerball. But yet, places like Newton and Wellesley and all those rich towns, they get lottery. They share the wealth, the lottery. And they get a disproportionate amount because they don't really put the money in, but they get it.
Of course.
Why don't they share the wealth with facilities?
You're asking for too much there, Chip. You're asking for too much.
So if that doesn't get you angry, look at the video of the mayor laughing at the recalls.
It's the Herald News has it live, WSAI has it live, and the Fall River Recallers have it live on their Facebook page. So you can watch it there.
And have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend and stay angry, people.